Jolice says, on the anger topic, what about the opposite problem? I have mild paranoia and confrontation makes me afraid. How do I have patience with myself without becoming a good man that does nothing in the face of evil? Well, I mean, first thought that comes to mind is just to do it poorly. Like have confrontations and do it poorly. You can do that. Start there and err on the side of being charitable as opposed to like blowing up and saying, well, I gave it my best shot. You don't want to do that because it's difficult to kind of mend a bridge if you've blown up at somebody, even though of course you can. But I would say just to go ahead and do it poorly. This happened to me recently. I had an awkward encounter with somebody who I know I offended. And this was about 3 months ago. Well, 2 months ago. I know I offended them because somebody told me, and I was like, I could call this person and confront them, but I don't really want to. And maybe they should have been offended. Like maybe that's what the Lord wanted to teach them. And that might be the case. But it kept coming back to me. You know, when something keeps coming back to you, like, okay, at this point I'm being a coward if I don't address it. So I called this person up and we had a conversation and it was really great. It went really well. But even if it hadn't have gone well, I think I would have felt better about the fact that I had responded to that kind of inner prompting. So maybe my advice to this person is if there's something in particular that's on your heart right now that you think you need to reconcile with somebody, just to go ahead, pray, and then do that as charitably as you can. And even if it's done poorly, thank God that you did it. What do you all think?
I would say in the midst of that, like before those confrontations or in the midst of them, as you realize it's happening, then ask the Lord for a spirit of discernment to hold fast to the things that are of Him, the things that are true, and to discard anything else. Because, you know, I struggled for a long time to receive any sort of criticism. And it wasn't because of the problem that a lot of people have where it's like someone's criticizing me and they're wrong and I'm whatever. It's like anytime someone said anything critical of me, my immediate assumption was they're right and I need to change everything right now. And that's a problem because, first of all, they might just not even be right.
Yeah.
Second of all, just because they are, it doesn't mean that the Lord is asking you to change that right now. Like, there could be much bigger fish to fry, and Jesus is wanting you to focus on those. And because you're focused on this little thing, you're missing the plank, you know? And so we really need a spirit of discernment, I think, to kind of sift through those things.
Yes.
And if we have that, then what people say to us in confrontation, we don't have to take as personally, and we can be more receptive to the things that are true instead of just being so overwhelmed by all of it that we discard all of it or we receive all of it, as opposed to like just taking on the things the Lord is asking us to take on. And I think a lot of that comes from finding our identity and our confidence in our identity as daughters or sons, as brides of Christ, daughters or sons of the Father as brides of Christ, because we're all called to see Christ as bridegroom, male and female. And yeah, and I say that, like, please understand, I say that as someone who's, I'm speaking to myself as I say that. You know, I was just talking to you, Matt, I think we talked about this on my podcast last week, about how, like, I needed to read through my comments on my other two videos with you. I needed to read through the comments because someone was asking for something particular from them. And between the two videos, there's like, I don't know, 500 comments or something like that. And maybe like 5 or 10 of them were negative. And like, those are the only ones that I remember, right? Because we're so much quicker to receive those negative things than the positive. And I think part of that, Mother Gabriella and I were talking about that on the way here. Like, I think that comes from a place of,
it's funny,
I already believe these things about myself, whether or not I'm saying them. Yeah. And so
we think that people are BSing us when they say something kind about us, but when they criticize us, they're infallible.
Like, please and stop. Even if we don't acknowledge it, like our reaction to seeing a negative comment or criticism of some kind, our reaction might be to defend it. But even then, I think we're often believing it. It's just that, like, we're being overly defensive because we want to convince ourselves that it's not true. Not because we need to convince them. So I
fall into this trap as well. I think when people would criticize me, I would err to the side of, you must be right. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I need to change this. Like, that's always where I go when somebody criticizes me. And I'm not saying that's a virtuous thing. It might just be, I want to show you how humble I am. So I'm going to receive this as best as I could.
So this is why you grew the beard back.
It's exactly why. That's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. No, but I've just realized that lately, like receiving some criticism, people have been emailing me. I'm like, yeah, I think you're wrong. Like, I'm right and you're wrong. And just because you criticize me, it doesn't make you wise and it doesn't make you right. You might be, and I have to discern that. And I think it's probably a good human reaction to reflect and say, well, did I screw up there? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Maybe I did, but not to the degree that I'm being accused of. But it might even be an act of humility to say, yeah, no, I didn't. I disagree with you. I think you're wrong.
I think just the word that came to me as you read that question, Matt, was just like gentleness with yourself. Like, have a great gentleness and know, like, when you're experiencing some kind of, you mentioned like paranoia or fear around conflict, know that like the Lord wants to come to you there, and he wants you to be rooted in him. Like Mother Natalia was saying, like, be rooted in your sonship. Like, go and sit before him before you enter into any conflict. And that will help you determine whether or not you should. Always run to him as your father, rather than trying to figure it out on your own. And I think that's kind of what's happening. I'm an orphan and I need to go figure this out and I'm doing it wrong. No, I need to go to my father and I need to receive his love. And from there, I'll be able to discern the next step, which may not be how to fix this thing, but this is the next place to go.
Yeah, I think Christopher West has said, never go within without him. Something to that effect. It gets to your point. Thank you very much for watching that clip. Before you go, do us a favor, click like, click subscribe, and if this really meant something to you, help us out by sharing it.